Picture this. You're 7 months pregnant, lying at the bottom of a marble staircase, blood pooling beneath you. Your husband's expensive shoes appear above you, and he says coldly, "You shouldn't have threatened me." That's how Caroline Mitchell's perfect life shattered in one moment. Atherton Mansion, wealthy tech CEO husband. The American dream until it became a nightmare. But here's where this story gets absolutely wild. While Caroline fought for her life in that hospital, while her husband hired the most expensive defense lawyers in San Francisco, while everyone told her she was too weak to survive without him, a secret was hiding in sealed legal documents. A secret that would flip everything upside down. Because Grant Mitchell didn't just throw his pregnant wife down the stairs. He threw down the woman who actually owned his entire $600 million empire. And he had no idea. What happens when an abuser discovers his victim held all the power all along? When a courtroom revelation destroys everything a man thought he built? When the woman everyone underestimated becomes the one person no one can ignore? This is a story about survival, about hidden power, about justice that's so perfectly ironic, you won't believe it's real. And I promise you, the courtroom scene alone is worth every single minute. So settle in, because for the next 90 minutes, you're about to hear how Caroline Mitchell went from the bottom of a staircase to the top of a boardroom. And trust me, you don't want to miss what happens when Grant finds out the truth. Let's begin. The baby kicked as Caroline's body hit the marble. Cold. That was the first thing Caroline Mitchell registered. The expensive Italian marble beneath her cheek felt like ice. Everything else was warmth. Wet warmth spreading beneath her. She was 7 months pregnant. The warmth was blood. Above her, expensive Italian leather shoes appeared at the top of the mahogany staircase. Grant's shoes, the ones she had picked up from the cobbler yesterday because he liked them resold in a specific way. His voice drifted down, cold, detached. "You shouldn't have threatened me, Caroline." Her hand moved to her stomach. Please let the baby be okay." Another kick. Relief flooded through her, mixing with the pain radiating from her ribs. The shoes moved. Grant descended the stairs slowly, methodically, like he was thinking, calculating. Carolyn tried to remember. 3 hours ago, what had started this? The office? Grant's home office with the locked drawer. She had been looking for birth certificates. They needed them for the pediatrician registration. She found the drawer open. Just once, he always locked it. Inside, bank statements, a transfer, $2 million to an account she had never seen before. She took photos with her phone, walked to the living room where he was on a conference call, waited. When he finished, she showed him, asked about the money. Simple question. "Where did $2 million go?" He said she was paranoid, hormonal. Pregnancy was making her imagine things. She said she wanted access to all financial statements. For the baby, for transparency. That's when his face changed. Now, lying at the bottom of the stairs, Caroline's fingers found her phone in her cardigan pocket. Muscle memory took over. She unlocked it, checked his location, locked it, unlocked it, checked again. She had been doing this for years, checking if his location matched his lies. Grant reached the bottom of the stairs, leaned over her. His cologne was heavy, the same scent from their wedding day. Lavender and cedar. She had loved it once. "Caroline?" His voice shifted. Panic now. Performed panic. "Oh my God, Caroline, can you hear me?" He pulled out his phone. Dialed 911. "Yes, I need an ambulance. My wife fell down the stairs. She's 7 months pregnant. Please hurry. We're at 1247 Rosewood Drive in Atherton." He gave their address like he was reading a script. Steady, calm, while his hand tightened on her shoulder. His mouth moved close to her ear. "Tell them you fell." Carolyn tasted blood. Metallic. Wrong. She tried to speak. Nothing came out. The house smelled like lavender. She had asked Maria, their housekeeper, to use that floor cleaner. The organic one. For the baby. Everything had been for the baby. Sirens, distant at first, then closer. Grant stayed near her, his hand on her shoulder. Possessive. Protective. Anyone watching would think he was a devoted husband, terrified for his wife and unborn child. The front door burst open. Paramedics rushed in. Two of them. One was a woman, tall, Dark curly hair, familiar. Rebecca Torres. Becca, Caroline's college roommate. They had lost touch 3 years ago. After Grant made a scene at her birthday dinner. After Becca had asked Caroline if everything was okay at home. After Grant said Becca was jealous of their happiness. Their eyes met now. Becca's face shifted, professional mask over personal recognition. But Caroline saw it, the way Becca's jaw tightened, the way her gaze moved from Caroline to Grant and back again. Mrs. Mitchell? Becca's voice was steady. I'm Rebecca. Can you tell me what happened? Caroline opened her mouth. Grant's hand pressed harder on her shoulder. She fell, Grant said quickly. I was in my office upstairs. I heard her scream. When I got to the hallway, she was already at the bottom. Becca looked at Caroline. Mrs. Mitchell, is that what happened? Caroline's throat closed. The truth sat there, heavy, impossible. She could say it, right now in front of witnesses. I didn't fall. He pushed me. He found me confronting him about hidden money, and he pushed me down the stairs. But what if they didn't believe her? What if Grant's lawyer twisted everything? What if she lost the baby in the stress of accusations and investigations? What if? I fell, Caroline whispered. Becca's expression didn't change, but her eyes did. They filled with something that looked like grief. The second paramedic, a younger man, began checking Caroline's vitals. Blood pressure, pulse. They asked about the baby, how far along, any complications with the pregnancy, any previous falls. Grant answered everything. He knew all the details. Due date, doctor's name, previous appointments. He sounded like the perfect husband. They moved Caroline onto a stretcher. Carefully. Every movement sent pain through her ribs. She bit back sounds. Grant held her hand. His grip was gentle. His face showed concern. Only Caroline felt how his thumb pressed into her pressure point. Only she knew this was a reminder. A warning. The ambulance ride was 6 minutes. Caroline counted. Becca rode him back with her. The other paramedic drove. Caroline, Becca said quietly. Grant was in his own car behind them. These injuries, the bruising pattern, I need you to know that when we get to the hospital, you'll be asked questions. By doctors, maybe by social workers. You can tell the truth. I fell, Caroline repeated. Okay. Becca's voice was soft, sad. Okay. Caroline's phone was still in her hand and she checked Grant's location again. He was following them. Of course he was. He would never let her out of his sight now. Lock, unlock, lock. The habit had started small, a year into their marriage. He said he was working late. She checked his location. He was at a bar. When she asked about it later, he said she was controlling, paranoid. That checking his location was toxic behavior. So she did it secretly, compulsively, knowing it was wrong, unable to stop. The baby kicked again, stronger this time. Caroline's hand moved to her stomach. Hang on, sweetheart, she whispered. Just hang on. The baby survived. Dr. Patricia Wells stood at the foot of Caroline's hospital bed at 3:45 in the morning. She was 55, gray hair pulled back, kind eyes that had seen too much. You had a placental abruption, Dr. Wells said. We caught it early. The baby's heartbeat is strong, but Caroline, you have 3 fractured ribs, a severe concussion, bruising consistent with significant impact. Caroline stared at the ceiling tiles, white, perforated. She counted the holes in one tile, 23, then started on the next. I fell, she said. Dr. Wells pulled a chair close to the bed, sat down. Her next words were careful. I've been your OBGYN for 7 months. Before that, I reviewed your complete medical history. You had 3 emergency room visits in the past 18 months. Each time you fell. Once downstairs at a restaurant, once in your bathroom, once in a parking garage. I'm clumsy, Carolyn said. The lie tasted familiar, comfortable almost. Your previous medical records before you married show no history of falls, no balance issues, no coordination problems. You were a competitive swimmer in college. Carolyn turned her head to look at Wells. The movement sent pain through her neck. What are you saying? I'm saying that the pattern of injuries we see in your records is consistent with intimate partner violence. I'm saying that 3 falls in 18 months, and now this, while 7 months pregnant, is not clumsiness. It's abuse, the word hung in the air. Abuse, clinical, undeniable. True. He didn't mean to hurt me, Carolyn whispered. Dr. Wells didn't argue. She just nodded, stood up, placed a folder on the bedside table. Resources are in there, hotlines, safe houses, legal advocates. When you're ready. She left. Carolyn was alone now. Grant had gone home to shower, change clothes, make phone calls. He would be back soon. He always came back. The hospital room was quiet except for medical equipment beeping. Monitors tracking her heartbeat. The baby's heartbeat. 2 lives on screens. Caroline's hands moved to her stomach. The baby shifted under her touch. Active. Fighting. Just like her. I'm sorry, Caroline whispered to her son. They had confirmed it was a 42 months ago. I'm so sorry I let this happen to us. Her throat tightened. The words came slowly at first, then faster. Your dad didn't used to be like this. Or maybe he did. Maybe I just didn't see it. When we met, he was charming. Brilliant. Everyone loved him. He said I was brilliant too. He said we would build an empire together. The baby kicked as if listening. Then little things changed. He said my friends were negative influences. He said my job was stressing me out. He said we should move somewhere quieter, away from family, for his company, for our future. Carolyn's voice cracked. I thought love meant sacrifice, compromise, support. I quit my job, left my friends, moved to California, all for him. And somewhere in all that giving, I forgot to keep anything for myself. More tears now, silent ones. But then you happened, and I realized I can't just give everything away anymore, because you need me. You need a mother who knows how to protect herself, who knows how to leave, who knows that love shouldn't hurt. The door opened. Carolyn quickly wiped her eyes. But it wasn't Grant. Becca stood there in regular clothes, jeans and a Stanford sweatshirt, off duty now. Hey, Becca said softly. She held 2 milkshakes. Remembered you love chocolate peanut butter. Totally contraband. Don't tell your doctor. She handed one to Caroline, sat in the chair. They drank in silence for a minute. Finally, Becca spoke. Caroline, I've bitten my tongue for 3 years. Since that dinner. Since Grant made a scene and you stopped calling. I told myself it wasn't my place. That maybe I was wrong, but I wasn't wrong. And I can't be silent anymore. Carolyn's hand tightened around the milkshake cup. That man is going to kill you. He didn't mean, stop. Becca's voice broke. Please stop protecting him. I've seen this 100 times as a paramedic. The first fall is never the last. The first punch is never the only punch. It escalates always. And you're 7 months pregnant. Next time, you might not be so lucky. Next time, the baby might not be okay. Caroline looked at her old friend. Becca's eyes were red, fierce, desperate. You don't understand, Caroline said. It's complicated. It's not complicated. He hurts you. You leave. That's simple. But where do I go? Everything is in his name. The house, the cars, the bank accounts. He controls everything. I don't even have a credit card he can't monitor. You come to my apartment. You call a lawyer. You file for divorce. You get a restraining order. You rebuild. People do it every day. Carolyn wanted to believe her, wanted to think it was that easy, but years of Grant's voice in her head made it impossible. You're too weak to survive on your own. You have no job experience, no references. You've been out of the workforce too long. No one would hire you. You need me. I need to think, Carolyn said. Becca nodded, pulled out her phone, typed something. Caroline's phone buzzed. My address, my spare key is under the ceramic turtle by the front door. You come anytime, day or night, no questions asked. Promise me you'll remember that. I promise. But they both knew Caroline probably wouldn't come. Women like Caroline never did, until they had no choice. Becca left after another 20 minutes. Caroline was alone again. She picked up her phone. 3 messages from Grant, all saying he loved her, all saying he would be there soon, all controlling her even from across town. She opened her settings, stared at his location access. She could turn it off, stop letting him track her. But that would start a fight. He would say she was hiding something, being secretive, pushing him away. Lock, unlock, lock. She checked his location. Still at home, still where he said he was. The one truth in an ocean of lies. Her mind drifted to their home. The Atherton mansion they had bought 2 years ago. 5 bedrooms, gourmet kitchen, home office. Perfect for raising a family, Grant had said. Carolyn thought about the panic cleaning. How she would scrub the kitchen at midnight before he came home from business trips. How she would arrange the living room throw pillows at exactly 45-degree angles. How she would check every surface for dust, every corner for imperfection. Because if anything was wrong, Grant would notice. He always noticed. And he would sigh. That disappointed sigh that made her feel small, worthless, incompetent. She became an expert in his disappointment. Could predict it, tried to prevent it, failed repeatedly, apologized constantly. The door opened again. A woman in business casual, clipboard, name badge that read Sharon Martinez, Hospital Social Services. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm Sharon. I work with patients who have experienced trauma. Dr. Wells asked me to stop by. Do you have a few minutes to chat? Carolyn's heart raced. I'm fine, really. I just need rest. Sharon sat down anyway. Her voice was gentle but firm. Given the nature of your injuries and your pregnancy, hospital protocol requires that we involve protective services. Not because we think you're a bad mother, but because we want to make sure you and your baby are safe. Protective services? Carolyn's voice rose. That's not necessary. I fell. It was an accident. I understand that's your statement, but we have a responsibility to investigate any injury to a pregnant woman that could indicate domestic violence. The room spun. This was happening. This was real. Caroline couldn't control it anymore. When will someone contact me? Within 24 hours, they'll want to interview you and your husband separately. It's standard procedure. After Sharon left, Caroline stared at the ceiling again, counted tiles, counted holes, tried to count herself back to calm, but calm wouldn't come, because she knew what would happen when Grant found out about protective services. He would be furious, controlled fury, the kind that waited until they were alone. An hour later, a nurse brought Caroline her personal belongings, phone, wallet, the clothes she had been wearing, now in a sealed bag. Evidence, maybe. There was something else. A manila envelope. Plain. No markings. This was left at the nurse's station for you, the nurse said. The woman didn't leave her name. After the nurse left, Caroline opened the envelope. A thumb drive fell out, and a note, handwritten. You deserve to know what he's hiding. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. L. Lauren Shaw, Grant's assistant, 26 years old, efficient, always professional, always watching everything. Caroline stared at the thumb drive. Whatever was on it, Grant didn't want her to see. Lauren was risking her job, maybe more. The baby kicked. Hard, like he was telling her to be brave, to look. Caroline didn't have a computer here, but she had her phone. She could look later. At the hotel, because she suddenly knew with absolute certainty that she couldn't go back home. Not yet, maybe not ever. She called the front desk, asked them to transfer her to patient services, made arrangements. They would help her book a hotel room, send her belongings there. She would be discharged tomorrow if the baby remained stable. Grant wouldn't like it, but for once, Caroline didn't care. Detective Sarah Chen sat across from Caroline in the hospital discharge room. She was 40, sharp eyes, patient demeanor. Mrs. Mitchell, I need you to walk me through the evening of October 10th. Everything you remember. Carolyn's voice was steady, practiced. I was looking for documents in my husband's office. I found the drawer open. Usually it's locked. Inside were bank statements. I saw a transfer, $2 million to an account I didn't recognize. And then? I took photos, waited for his call to end, asked him about it. He said I was being paranoid, that pregnancy was making me irrational. I said I wanted financial transparency for our child. He got angry. What did angry look like? Carolyn paused. This was the moment. Truth or lie, safety or chaos. He started yelling, saying I didn't trust him, that I was ungrateful, that everything he built was for our family. I said I just wanted to see the accounts. He said no. I said I would talk to a lawyer. He said I wouldn't dare. Detective Chen wrote quickly. Then what happened? I walked away, went upstairs. He followed. We were on the landing. He was blocking my path. I tried to move past him. He grabbed my arm. I pulled away, and then I was falling. Did he push you? Carolyn looked at her hands. The truth sat in her throat. Heavy. I don't know. Maybe, or maybe I lost my balance. It happened so fast. It was neither truth nor lie. It was the space in between where women like Caroline lived. The maybe. The I don't know. The uncertainty that kept them trapped. Detective Chen closed her notebook. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm going to be direct with you. Your injuries are consistent with being pushed. Your medical history shows a pattern. Your husband has already hired Dennis Porter as his criminal defense attorney. That alone tells me something. Dennis Porter? One of the best defense lawyers in San Francisco. Expensive. Usually retained when someone knows charges are coming. Carolyn's stomach dropped. Grant was already preparing. Already building his defense. While she lay in the hospital recovering, he was strategizing her destruction. After the detective left, Caroline was released. A nurse wheeled her to the front entrance. A taxi waited. No Grant. He had called 17 times. She hadn't answered. The hotel was modest, clean, anonymous. Caroline checked in under her own name. They didn't have many belongings sent over. Just a suitcase, toiletries, some clothes. The room was small, queen bed, desk, window overlooking a parking lot. Nothing like the mansion. Everything like freedom. Caroline sat on the bed, opened her laptop that Becca had packed, inserted the thumb drive. One folder, audio files, dozens of them. She clicked the first one. Grant's voice filled the room. The prenup is airtight. She gets nothing in a divorce. Maybe 50,000, enough to make her go away quietly. Another voice, Dennis Porter. What if she fights? She won't. Caroline doesn't fight. That's why I married her. She's weak, manageable. She'll take whatever I offer because she has no other options. The recording was dated 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks before the stairs. This wasn't a moment of rage. This wasn't a loss of control. Grant had been planning this. Caroline played another file. This one was Grant with someone else, a man she didn't recognize. I need the money moved offshore, Cayman accounts, before the divorce. She'll never find it. Grant, that's illegal. Only if someone proves it, and Caroline's too stupid to hire a forensic accountant. Another recording, Grant with investors. My wife's family money launched the company, but between us, she's a glorified secretary, has no idea how business actually works. I keep her happy with credit cards and spa days. Laughter in the background. Carolyn played file after file. Each one revealed more. Grant discussing hiding assets. Grant planning to accuse her of mental instability. Grant coaching witnesses to testify that she was paranoid. Delusional. The final recording made her stop breathing. Caroline's too weak to fight back. She always has been. That's why I married her. She was vulnerable after her father died, desperate for connection, easy to manipulate, and her inheritance gave me the capital I needed. Perfect situation, really. The other voice asked, what if she leaves? She won't. But if she tries, I'll bury her. Legal fees, custody battles, public humiliation. I'll make sure she regrets ever questioning me. By the time I'm done, she'll have nothing. Not even her dignity. Carolyn played it again and again. Not crying, just listening, absorbing, understanding. She had thought the stairs were his breaking point. Loss of control, unintentional harm. But Grant had been building toward her destruction for weeks, maybe months, maybe years. Every kind word had been calculated. Every gesture of affection had been manipulation. Every apology had been strategy. She wasn't his wife. She was his long-term investment. And when investments stopped performing, you liquidated them. Carolyn's hands shook as she closed the laptop. She sat in the hotel room's silence, stared at her reflection in the dark window. Then she did something she hadn't done in years. She made a decision without asking permission. She called Vivian Brennan, attorney, her college friend Emma's older sister, divorce specialist, reputation for being ruthless. Vivian answered on the second ring. "This is Vivian. Hi, my name is Caroline Mitchell. I'm 7 months pregnant. My husband threw me down the stairs 5 days ago. He's planning to destroy me in divorce court, and I just found recordings that prove it. I need help." Silence. Then Vivian's voice, sharp and focused. "Don't say another word on this phone. Are you somewhere safe?" "A hotel. He doesn't know where." "Good. Keep it that way. I'm texting you my office address. Be there tomorrow at 9 a.m. Bring the recordings. Bring any documentation you have. And Caroline, Yes? Don't go back to that house, ever. Whatever you left behind isn't worth your life." Carolyn hung up. For the first time in years, she felt something other than fear. She felt fury. Vivian Brennan's office was on the 14th floor of a building in downtown San Francisco. Floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, walls covered with degrees and awards. Vivian herself was 58, silver hair cut sharp, eyes sharper. She wore a charcoal suit and no wedding ring. "Sit," Vivian said. "Tell me everything. Don't leave anything out. Even the small things matter." Carolyn talked for 2 hours. The courtship, the marriage, the isolation, the control, the escalation, the stairs, the recordings. Vivian listened without interrupting, took notes. When Caroline finished, Vivian sat back. "I'm going to tell you something don't usually share with clients. 10 years ago, my daughter Rachel was in a relationship like yours. Charming man. Successful. Everyone loved him. Behind closed doors, he was destroying her. I begged her to leave. She said she would, after the holidays, after his work stress calmed down, after. Vivian's voice didn't waver, but her eyes did. She died 3 days before Christmas. He strangled her during an argument about taking the trash out. The trash. That's what it took." Carolyn's throat tightened. "I see Rachel in you. Same age, same intelligence, same pattern of making yourself smaller to keep the peace. But you're going to survive. Because you're here. Because you're choosing to fight. And because I'm going to make damn sure he never touches you again." Vivian pulled out a legal pad, drew a timeline. "Here's what's happening. First, we file a restraining order. Emergency protective order today. Permanent order hearing next week. Second, we file for divorce. California is a no-fault state, but we're documenting everything for custody. Third, I'm referring your case to the district attorney. Those recordings show premeditation. That makes the assault attempt a felony." "Will they arrest him?" "If we can prove he pushed you, yes. The challenge is your initial statement said you fell. We need to be strategic." Carolyn understood. She had protected him. Now that protection would be used against her. "What about money? I don't have access to any accounts. Grant controls everything." Vivian smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was predatory. "California is a community property state. Everything acquired during marriage is half yours. That includes his precious company. We'll freeze accounts, demand full financial disclosure, and here's where it gets interesting." She pulled up something on her computer, turned the screen to show Caroline. "Grant's been moving money for months. Shell companies, offshore accounts, all traceable, all illegal if he didn't disclose during marriage. We have him on fraud, possibly tax evasion. The IRS loves these cases." Carolyn stared at the screen. Numbers, transfers, dates, all while she was pregnant, all while he was planning her destruction. "There's something else," Vivian said carefully. "Asset investigation requires looking at company and corporation. Ownership structures. We need to request sealed documents from Tech Vision Corp." "Why would documents be sealed?" "That's what I want to know. Usually it's privacy trusts, wealthy founders who don't want public ownership records. But something's unusual here. My investigator hit a wall. Records require a judge's order to unseal." Carolyn felt something shift, a piece of information just out of reach. "My father set up my inheritance in a trust. Could that be related?" "What kind of trust?" "I don't know exactly. After he died, Grant said he would handle it. invest it properly, grow it for our future. I gave him power of attorney to manage everything. Vivian's expression changed. Caroline, when did you last personally review your father's trust documents? Never. Grant said they were too complicated, that I didn't need to worry about financial details. Vivian wrote something down, underlined it 3 times. We need to find those documents, original copies, from your father's estate attorney. Who handled the will? Thomas Reed. He's in New York. I haven't spoken to him since the funeral. That was 7 years ago. I'm calling him today. This could be important. After the meeting, Caroline went back to the hotel, exhausted, 8 months pregnant now. Her body ached constantly, but something else ached more. The realization of how completely she had been deceived. That night, she couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m., she sat in bed with her laptop, searched things she should have searched years ago. Can babies feel stress in the womb? Results flooded the screen. Yes, cortisol crosses the placenta. Maternal stress affects fetal development. High stress linked to premature birth, low birth weight, developmental delays. Caroline put her hand on her stomach. I'm sorry, she whispered for the 100th time. She searched more. How to leave with no money. Is it gaslighting if he says you're too sensitive? Signs of emotional abuse. Her search history was a roadmap of awakening. Every query a step toward truth she had been denying. Vivian called the next morning. Thomas Reed is flying in tomorrow. He's bringing the original trust documents. Carolyn, he sounded shocked when I told him you'd never reviewed them. Said something about irrevocable clauses, protection mechanisms your father put in place. What does that mean? I don't know yet, but we'll find out tomorrow. The restraining order hearing was that afternoon. Caroline sat in family court, Vivian beside her, Grant across the aisle with Dennis Porter. Grant looked perfect. Expensive suit, concerned expression, wounded husband wrongly accused. Caroline wore a maternity dress. No makeup, just her bruises finally visible. Purple and yellow down her left side. Judge Margaret Whitmore was 62. Gray hair, no-nonsense demeanor. She had been a family court judge for 20 years. She had seen everything. The hearing was brief. Vivian presented medical records, police reports, Lauren's recordings, hospital social worker testimony. Dennis Porter argued Caroline was emotionally unstable, fabricating allegations, that Grant was a devoted husband being unjustly persecuted. Judge Whitmore listened to both sides. Then she looked at Caroline. Mrs. Mitchell, do you feel safe returning to your marital home? No, Your Honor. Do you believe your husband poses a threat to you or your unborn child? Yes, Your Honor. Judge Whitmore signed the order. Temporary restraining order granted. Mr. Mitchell, you are to stay 500 feet away from your wife. No contact, no third-party contact, no electronic contact. Violation will result in immediate arrest. Permanent order hearing in 30 days. Grant's facade cracked for just a moment. Fury flashed across his face. Then it was gone, replaced by wounded innocence. But Caroline saw it. That flash of rage, that glimpse of who he really was. As they left the courthouse, Caroline twisted her wedding ring. She had kept it on. Some superstitious belief that removing it would make everything final, irreversible. Now, standing on the courthouse steps, she pulled it off. The ring slid over her knuckle. For 6 years it had been stuck. Tight, permanent. Now it came off easily. Carolyn held it for a moment. White gold, diamond, the ring that had symbolized love, commitment, future. She dropped it in her purse, heard it clink against her keys. Sonic punctuation for a chapter ending. Vivian put a hand on her shoulder. You did well today. How do you feel? Caroline thought about it, really thought. I feel angry, she said. For the first time in years, I'm not scared. I'm just furious. Vivian smiled. Good. Anger is useful. It means you are ready to fight. 8 months pregnant, 2 weeks from her due date. Caroline couldn't see her feet anymore. Getting dressed required strategic planning. Her son kicked constantly, like he was training for something, preparing for a fight just like his mother. The deposition was scheduled for 9 a.m. Grant's lawyer wanted to question Caroline under oath, establish her story, lock her into testimony before trial. Vivian prepared her for 3 days. He's going to try to rattle you, make you emotional, get you to contradict yourself. Stay calm, answer only what's asked. Don't elaborate, don't explain, just facts. Carolyn sat across from Dennis Porter in a conference room. Court reporter, video camera, everything recorded, everything permanent. Dennis Porter was 45, silver hair, expensive watch, smile that didn't reach his eyes. Mrs. Mitchell, good morning. I'm going to ask you some questions about your marriage and the events of October 10th. Please answer honestly. I will. You've been treated for depression, correct? Yes, after I married your client. Porter's smile tightened. And you're currently on medication? No, I stopped when I got pregnant. My doctor approved. But you have a history of mental health issues? I have a history of being abused, which caused depression. There's a difference. Vivian had suppressed a smile. Carolyn was holding her ground. Porter switched tactics. Mrs. Mitchell, isn't it true you have financial motive to make these allegations? I have financial motive to protect my child from an abuser. Your child? Interesting you don't say our child. My child, yes. Grant Mitchell will never be a father to my son. Rather presumptuous given that California law grants parental rights regardless of your accusations. We'll see what the court decides when they hear the recordings. Porter's jaw tightened. The recordings. The evidence he couldn't explain away. They went back and forth for 2 hours. Caroline's back ached. Her son kicked in protest. But she didn't waver, didn't cry, didn't break. Finally, Porter asked, Mrs. Mitchell, when did you last review your father's estate documents? Carolyn froze. Why was he asking about her father? I've never reviewed them. Never. Your father died 7 years ago, left you a substantial inheritance, and you never looked at the trust papers? My husband said he would handle it. How convenient. And you trusted him? At the time, yes. So you gave a man you now claim is abusive complete control over your inheritance? Caroline saw the trap. If she was smart enough to recognize abuse now, why wasn't she smart enough to protect her money then? If she was competent enough to leave him now, why wasn't she competent enough to manage her own finances? I trusted someone I shouldn't have. I'm correcting that mistake now. Break was called. Caroline went to the bathroom, locked herself in a stall, sat fully clothed on the toilet seat, counted, 1, 2, 3, breathe, 4, 5, 6, breathe. Becca had taught her this. When panic came, when breathing stopped, count the tiles, count your breaths, count yourself back to stability. She made it to 30 before her heart rate slowed. Someone knocked on the bathroom door. Caroline? It's Thomas Reed. I'm here. Caroline opened the stall, walked out. Thomas Reed stood by the sinks. He was 52 now, gray at his temples, same kind eyes from her father's funeral. Caroline, I'm so sorry about everything. If I had known you'd never reviewed the trust documents, I would have reached out sooner. What's in the documents? Thomas glanced at the bathroom door, made sure they were alone. Your father was paranoid about fortune hunters after your mother died. He restructured everything. Put your inheritance in an irrevocable trust with very specific protections. What kind of protections? The kind that mean you need to see the papers. Today, after this deposition. I have them at my hotel. They finished the deposition. Porter asked more questions about the stairs, the fall, her injuries. Caroline answered each one. Steady, calm, protecting her truth. When it was over, she went with Thomas to his hotel. Vivian came too. Thomas spread papers across the hotel room desk. The full estate documents. Trusts, wills, corporate structures. Your father sold his tech company for $800 million, Thomas said. He placed the entire amount in trust for you. Not $5 million, Sitipum. $800 million. Carolyn stared at him. But Grant said Grant accessed $5 million for his startup. That's true, but the documents show it was a loan from your trust, not a gift, with very specific terms. Thomas pulled out another page, highlighted sections, legal language Caroline didn't fully understand. This clause here, it's unusual. Your father was protecting you. Any business venture funded by trust money would automatically have controlling interest assigned to you. He was making sure no one could use your money without you retaining power. Carolyn's vision blurred. What does that mean? It means when you loaned Grant $5 million for Tech Vision Corp, this clause triggered, automatically, without anyone needing to file anything. The ownership structure changed the moment trust money touched the company. Vivian leaned forward. Thomas, spell it out. Thomas looked at Caroline. Caroline, you don't own part of your husband's company. You own the majority, 68%. You've been the controlling shareholder of Tech Vision Corp for 6 years. Grant owns 19%. Investors own the rest. The room tilted. Carolyn sat down hard in a chair. That's impossible. I never signed anything. I never filed anything. I didn't know. You didn't need to know. Your father built protections into the trust that activated automatically. The paperwork was filed by the trust administrators, not publicly due to privacy structures, but legally binding. Does Grant know? Based on your statement that you never reviewed these documents, and Grant convinced you he'd handle everything? I don't think he knows. The filings are sealed, private trust structures. He genuinely believes he built his empire alone. Vivian started laughing, not happy laughter, shocked laughter. You mean this man threw his wife down the stairs while she owned 68% of his company? While he was using her money? While she had the power to fire him at any time? That's exactly what I mean. Caroline couldn't breathe. Her hands went to her stomach. The baby kicked, hard, demanding her attention. He used my money, built his company on my inheritance, abused me for years, almost killed our baby. While I owned everything he thought was his. Yes. And he never knew? The documents suggest no one knew. Your father's attorney, my predecessor, died 5 years ago. I inherited the files. I assumed you knew. You're the beneficiary. The trust sends you quarterly statements. Grant handles all the mail, all the finances. I never saw any statements. This was worse than the recordings, worse than the lies. Grant hadn't just manipulated her. He'd stolen her entire identity, her money, her power, her ownership, and replaced it with dependence. While she owned everything all along, Carolyn stood, walked to the hotel room window, stared out at San Francisco, the city where she had gone to business school, where she had dreamed of changing the world, where she had met Grant and forgotten how to dream. Behind her, Vivian and Thomas talked strategy, legal implications, custody arguments, criminal charges. But Caroline wasn't listening. She was processing. 7 years. 7 years of being told she was weak, incapable, dependent, nothing without him. 7 years of actually being the person with all the power. Her phone buzzed. Grant. The restraining order meant he couldn't contact her. But he did anyway, 17 times that day. Each message a violation, each message proving Vivian's point. Abusers don't stop because courts tell them to. They stop when their victims take away their power. And Caroline suddenly understood. She had always had the power. She just never knew it was there. The hotel room at 2 a.m. Caroline sat in the bathtub, fully clothed, maternity dress, cardigan, even her shoes. The water was cold. She hadn't bothered to make it warm. She just needed to feel something other than the numbness. Papers spread on the bathroom counter. Trust documents, corporate filings, proof that she owned 68% of a company worth $600 million. Grant thought he was worth over $100 million. He thought he built an empire. He thought his genius and hard work created Tech Vision Corp. But it was her money, her father's protection, her trust, her ownership. Grant had nothing, never had anything, built everything on her foundation while tearing her down. The irony was devastating. Caroline didn't cry. Crying required emotion, energy. She had neither. Just sat in cold water, existed, breathed, survived. Sometimes trauma is too big for tears. Her phone rang. Becca. Caroline didn't answer. Couldn't form words. The baby kicked. Strong. Insistent. Reminding her she wasn't alone. Couldn't just disappear into numbness. Had to function. Had to survive. For him. Carolyn stood, drained the tub, walked back to the bedroom, lay on top of the covers, stared at the ceiling. Vivian had explained it all. The trust documents showed everything. When Caroline's father died, he left his tech company proceeds in an irrevocable trust. $800 million, dollars, protected from taxes, from lawsuits, from anyone trying to steal it. The trust had one beneficiary, Caroline, but her father added clauses, protection mechanisms. He knew she was young, vulnerable, fresh out of business school. Wealthy women were targets, so he built safety into the money itself. Any business venture funded by the trust would automatically assign controlling interest to Caroline. Line. The trust administrators would file paperwork, establish ownership, protect her without her needing to do anything. When Caroline gave Grant $5 million to start Tech Vision Corp, she thought she was giving him seed money, supporting his dream, being a good wife. She didn't know the trust had rules, that giving him money meant giving herself control, that every dollar he built his company on came with strings attached, strings that tied everything back to her. The documents showed it clearly. Tech Vision Corp incorporation papers filed with the state. Caroline Mitchell, majority shareholder, 68%. Grant Mitchell, 19%. Angel investors, 13%. For 6 years, this had been the truth. Legal, binding, sealed in private trust structures that Grant never thought to investigate. He signed contracts as CEO, made decisions, hired employees, courted investors, built the company to $600 million in value, and all while Caroline owned it. All while Caroline cleaned their kitchen at midnight, arranged throw pillows at 45-degree angles, walked on eggshells, checked his location obsessively, made herself smaller and smaller until she almost disappeared. The woman who owned a $600 million company couldn't even access the checking account. Caroline started laughing, couldn't stop. Hysterical laughter that turned to sobs that turned to silence. She grabbed her phone, ordered pizza at midnight. The driver arrived 20 minutes later. College age, tired, probably working to pay tuition. "You okay?" he asked, taking in her puffy eyes, pregnant stomach, hotel room. "I'm fine," Caroline lied. Automatic, reflexive, the lie that had become her first language. He nodded, left. Caroline closed the door, stared at the pizza, didn't eat, just stared. She had lied to a stranger, a kid she'd never see again. Lied because lying was easier than truth. Because admitting she wasn't fine meant accepting help. Accepting help meant being vulnerable. Being vulnerable meant being hurt. So she lied, to everyone, even herself. Caroline put her hand on her stomach. The baby moved under her touch. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm sorry I taught myself to lie. I'm sorry I taught myself to be small. I'm sorry I let him make me forget who I am." The baby kicked. "But I remember now. My name is Caroline Mitchell. I graduated from Stanford with an MBA. I was offered jobs at Google, Amazon, McKinsey. I turned them down to support a man who needed my money more than he loved me. I made a mistake, but mistakes don't define us. What we do after defines us." Another kick. "Tomorrow I'm meeting with Vivian. We're filing the ownership documents with the divorce papers. Grant's going to find out I own his world, his company, his reputation. Everything he built belongs to me. And you know what? I'm taking it. Not for revenge, not for money, but because it was always mine. And I'm done pretending to be powerless." At 6 a.m., Carolyn woke to cramping, sharp pains. She called Dr. Wells. "Sounds like Braxton Hicks. False labor, common at this stage, but come in. Let me check you and the baby." At the hospital, Dr. Wells examined her. "Carolyn, your blood pressure is dangerously high. You're showing signs of preeclampsia. The stress is affecting your health. You need to prioritize yourself and this baby." After the trial, "There might not be an after if you don't take care of yourself now." "He tried to kill my son," Carolyn said quietly. "I'm finishing this. I'm making sure he faces consequences. I'm making sure everyone knows what he did. Then I'll rest." Dr. Wells sighed. "You're as stubborn as your father. He was one of my first patients when I started practicing. Did you know that? You knew my dad. Brilliant man, paranoid about protecting you after your mom died. I remember him talking about trust structures, making sure no one could take advantage of you. He'd be proud of you now, standing up for yourself. Carolyn's throat tightened. I wish he was here. He is. In those documents, in the protections he built, in the strength he gave you. You're his daughter. That means you're capable of more than you know. Caroline was released with instructions to rest. She went back to the hotel, but rest wouldn't come. Her mind raced, replaying years of marriage, seeing it all differently now. Grant's proposal, romantic, expensive ring, promises of forever. She thought he loved her. Now she wondered if he loved her money, her connections, her background, their wedding. She wanted something small. He insisted on big, impressive, making a statement. She thought he was proud. Now she wondered if he was establishing credibility, using her family's reputation. Their first year, he asked her to quit her job, support his startup. She thought it was partnership. Now she knew it was isolation, removing her independence. Every memory poisoned, every good moment tainted with new understanding. But Caroline refused to cry about it, not anymore. She had cried enough, apologized enough, made herself small enough. Now she was getting big, taking up space, taking back power. She called Vivian. I want to go public with the ownership documents. I want Grant to find out in the most humiliating way possible. In court, in front of everyone. I want him to know that everything he thought he built was mine. Vivian was quiet for a moment. Carolyn, that's a strategic choice. Once we reveal ownership, we lose some negotiating power. He can't settle and make this go away quietly. I don't want quiet. I want truth. I want justice. I want everyone who didn't believe me to see exactly who he is. Then we'll do it. But this means trial. Full trial, criminal and civil. It means months of your life spent fighting. It means reliving trauma, defending yourself, facing him again and again. I know. I'm ready. Okay then, let's burn his world down. 3 weeks until trial, Carolyn was 39 weeks pregnant, could deliver any day. Her doctor wanted to induce labor, get the baby out before more stress caused complications. Carolyn refused. After the trial, I'm not giving him the satisfaction of making me miss it. Vivian didn't argue, just shook her head and muttered about stubborn clients. Grant's lawyers offered a settlement, $10 million, full custody arrangement. Carolyn would sign NDAs, no public statements about their marriage. Carolyn refused. This goes to trial, all of it, every recording, every bruise photo, every sealed document. I want everything in public record. Grant's world was cracking. The recordings had leaked somehow. Anonymous packets sent to Tech Vision's board members. Financial irregularities. Expense reports showing company money used to hire private investigators to follow Caroline. Evidence of Grant using corporate funds for personal vendettas. The board called an emergency meeting. Grant was placed on administrative leave, pending investigation into misuse of company resources. Lauren Shaw gave an official statement to police. She had more recordings. Grant with investors. My wife's family money launched us, but she's too stupid to know how business works. She's essentially a trust fund baby who got lucky. More evidence, more proof of contempt, more ammunition. Caroline found old photos on her phone one afternoon, scrolling back through years. There she was at Stanford MBA graduation. Cap and gown, huge smile, confident, bright, ready to change the world. Wedding photos. Still bright, still happy, Grant looking at her like she was everything. Photos from their first anniversary. She looked good, healthy, radiant. Second anniversary. Smile slightly dimmer, thinner. Third anniversary. Smile forced, significantly thinner. Eyes tired. Fourth anniversary. Barely smiling. Looking at Grant for approval before every photo. Fifth anniversary. No photos. She couldn't find any from that year. Sixth anniversary. 2 months ago. Pregnant. Smile gone. Eyes empty. Watching her light dim in real time. Documented. Preserved. Evidence of slow destruction. Carolyn sent the photos to herself. Created a folder labeled evidence. Not for court. For herself. Reminder of who she used to be. Who she could be again. Her therapist, Dr. Sarah Kim, helped her process everything during their sessions. The hardest part, Carolyn said one afternoon, is admitting I knew all along. Somewhere deep down I knew. But leaving felt impossible. Staying felt worse. So I just existed in between. In the maybe, the someday, the after he calms down, after his work stress reduces, after. Why do you think you stayed? Dr. Kim asked. Because leaving meant admitting I made a mistake. Marrying him was a mistake. Trusting him was a mistake. Giving up my career was a mistake. And admitting all that meant accepting I wasted years of my life. Failed at marriage. Disappointed my family. Proved everyone wrong who believed in me. And now? Now I know staying would have been the bigger mistake. Dying would have been the biggest mistake. My son deserves a living mother, even if she's imperfect, even if she failed, even if she's broken. You're not broken, Caroline. You're healing. There's a difference. Small victories accumulated. The restraining order was extended. Criminal charges officially filed. Assault with intent to cause great bodily harm. Potential sentence of 7 years. Caroline's old college friends reached out. Sarah, Emma, Michelle. Women she had lost touch with after Grant made them feel unwelcome. "We're here," Emma texted. "We never left. We were just waiting for you to come back." They planned a girls' weekend, after the baby, after the trial, just like old times. Judith, Grant's mother, sent a letter. Caroline didn't open it. Not yet. Maybe not ever. She knew what it would say. Some variation of, "Grant made mistakes, but he loves you." And, "Think of your son growing up without a father." Carolyn had thought about that, long and hard. Her son growing up without a father. But what was worse, no father or an abusive one? No father or one who taught him to hurt women? The answer was obvious. At 39 weeks, Caroline's water broke. She was in Vivian's office reviewing trial prep, felt the gush, looked down. "Vivian, we need to pause." Vivian looked at her, at the floor, jumped up. "Hospital? Now, I'm driving. The trial starts in 4 days. I need to deliver this baby and be in that courtroom." "Caroline, you realize that's insane? He took 6 years. He doesn't get another day." Labor was 17 hours, long, painful, natural because Caroline refused epidural, wanted to feel everything, control everything. After years of numbness, she wanted sensation, even if it hurt. Becca was her birthing coach. Vivian in the waiting room, Dr. Wells delivering, no Grant, no family, just the people she chose. Harrison Caldwell Mitchell was born at 3:42 a.m. on November 3rd, 8 pounds, 3 ounces, healthy, perfect, screaming his arrival to the world. Wells placed him on Caroline's chest, warm, wet, alive. "Hey, baby," Caroline whispered. "We made it." The baby quieted at her voice, opened his eyes, dark blue, unfocused, but looking at her, knowing her. "I'm your mom. I fought for you. I survived for you, and I'm going to keep fighting. Because you deserve a mother who knows how to protect herself, how to demand respect, how to leave, and how to stay only when love is safe." Becca wiped tears. Even Dr. Wells looked emotional. They moved Caroline to recovery. She held Harrison, couldn't stop looking at him. 10 fingers, 10 toes, perfect nose, her father's chin, possibly her eyes. Nothing of Grant visible yet. Maybe never. Maybe Harrison would be all hers. At 2 a.m., while the nurses checked vitals, Caroline examined Harry's tiny fingers, traced the lines on his palm, talked to him quietly. "Your grandfather wanted to protect me. He built walls around my inheritance to keep bad people away. Your father wanted to use me. He destroyed those walls, took what he wanted, left me empty. But you're the reason I built myself back up. You're my anchor, my purpose, my future." Harrison made small sounds, baby sounds, already demanding her attention, already teaching her to be present. "I thought I was weak, told myself that story for years. But surviving Grant meant I was strong. Leaving Grant meant I was brave. Fighting Grant means I'm powerful. You'll grow up watching your mother be all those things. And you'll never question that you can be them too. For the first time in years, Carolyn felt peace. Real peace. Not the false calm of walking on eggshells, not the fake happiness of pretending everything was fine, but genuine peace. The kind that comes after you've fallen and chosen to rise. 72 hours after giving birth, Caroline walked into family court, sore, exhausted, determined. Harry was with Becca, 3 days old, being fed bottles of pumped milk, safe. Grant stood outside the courtroom in an expensive navy suit, custom-tailored, confident. When he saw Caroline, his face shifted, performed concern. Caroline, please, let's settle this for our son. His name is Harrison, and you're never meeting him. Grant's mask slipped, just for a second. Fury flashed in his eyes. You can't keep my son from me. Watch me. Dennis Porter appeared, put a hand on Grant's shoulder, steered him away before he said something that could be used against him. The criminal trial began, Judge Whitmore presiding, jury of 12, 6 men, 6 women, range of ages, backgrounds, faces giving nothing away. The prosecutor was Amanda Chen, 48, sharp, experienced. She had reviewed every piece of evidence, every recording, every medical report, built a case that was overwhelming. Amanda's opening statement was direct. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is a case about power, about control, about a man who systematically destroyed his wife's sense of self until she believed she deserved abuse. And when she finally threatened to leave, he threw her down a staircase while she was 7 months pregnant with his child. That's attempted murder. That's assault with intent to cause great bodily harm. That's domestic violence at its most deadly. Dennis Porter's opening was predictable. Carolyn was unstable. Postpartum depression started early. False memories, tragic accident. Grant was a devoted husband being persecuted by a vindictive wife who wanted his money. The prosecutor called witnesses. Dr. Wells testified about Caroline's injuries. Pattern of trauma, previous falls that weren't falls. Becca testified about finding Caroline at the bottom of the stairs, about the fear in her eyes, about how Caroline flinched when Grant touched her. The hospital social worker testified about her interview with Caroline, about recognizing signs of long-term abuse. Lauren Shaw testified about Grant's behavior, about the recordings, about conversations where Grant described Caroline as weak, manageable, stupid. Each witness built the case, brick by brick, evidence stacking. Then Caroline took the stand. She wore a simple dress, navy blue, professional, her hair pulled back, no jewelry except small earrings. She looked young, vulnerable, like someone who needed protection, but her voice was steady. Amanda Chen walked her through the marriage, the isolation, the control, the escalation, the stairs. Mrs. Mitchell, can you tell the jury what happened on the landing before you fell? Grant was blocking my path. I tried to move past him. He grabbed my arm. Tight, I pulled away. He said, "You're not going anywhere." I said I was calling a lawyer. That's when he pushed me. I felt his hands on my shoulders. Then I was falling. You're certain he pushed you? Yes, I've had months to remember, to process. He pushed me. Dennis Porter's cross-examination was brutal, expected. He tried to rattle her, make her emotional, get her to contradict herself. Mrs. Mitchell, your initial statement to paramedics said you fell. Now you say you were pushed. Which is it? I was in shock, terrified, pregnant, with my abuser standing over me. I said what I needed to say to survive that moment. Now I'm saying the truth. Convenient timing, right when you're filing for divorce. Convenient would have been speaking up when he first shoved me. Brave would have been leaving after the first black eye. Smart would have been recognizing the danger before I was pregnant. This isn't convenient, Mr. Porter. This is survival. Some jury members nodded, others remained neutral, but Caroline saw them listening, actually listening. Porter switched tactics. You stand to gain significantly in divorce proceedings, correct? I stand to gain my freedom. That's priceless. But also millions of dollars from your husband's company, Vivian objected. Sustained. But Porter made his point. Carolyn had financial motive, except the jury didn't know yet. Didn't know she already owned everything. That reveal was coming. Carefully timed. Maximum impact. The trial continued for 3 days. More witnesses, more evidence. Grant's credit card statements showing charges to private investigators. Documentation of him monitoring Caroline's phone. Proof of isolation tactics. Then Grant took the stand. He was perfect. Calm, measured, wounded. He testified about loving Caroline, about being devoted to her, about the pregnancy being the happiest time of his life, about being devastated when she fell. "I would never hurt Caroline," he said. "I sincere," voice breaking slightly. "She's my wife, the mother of my child. This is all a terrible misunderstanding. She fell. I tried to help her. Now I'm being accused of something I didn't do." Amanda Chen let him talk, let him build his defense, let him commit to his story. Then she began cross-examination. "Mr. Mitchell, you testified you love your wife, yet you hired private investigators to follow her? For her protection. I was worried about her mental state. You testified this was an accident. Yet on this recording," Amanda played Lauren's recording. Grant's voice filled the courtroom. "Caroline's too weak to fight back. That's why I married her." Grant's face paled. "That was taken out of context." "Was it? Let me play another. She'll get nothing in a divorce. I'll bury her in legal fees until she gives up." "Mr. Mitchell, these recordings were made weeks before the incident, before your wife fell, as you claim. Why were you discussing burying her in legal fees if you had no plans to harm her?" Those were private conversations." "Private conversations revealing your intent to destroy your wife if she left you," Grant's lawyer objected. Judge overruled. Grant was unraveling on the stand, voice rising, demeanor shifting, the mask cracking. Amanda pressed further. "Mr. Mitchell, let's discuss Tech Vision Corp. You built this company, correct?" "Yes." "From scratch?" "With my wife's family loan, yes." "A $5 million loan?" "Yes." "And you own the company?" "I'm CEO and majority shareholder, yes." Amanda smiled. She glanced at Vivian, nodded. This was it, the moment they'd been building toward. "Your Honor, at this time the defense would like to introduce new evidence. Sealed corporate documents that have bearing on Mr. Mitchell's financial situation and possible motive for harming his wife." Dennis Porter stood. "Objection. This is a criminal trial, not a divorce proceeding. Financial records are irrelevant." "Your Honor," Amanda said, "the defendant has testified that he owns Tech Vision Corp., that his success is self-made, that his wife had no involvement beyond a small family loan. We have evidence that directly contradicts that testimony. This goes to his credibility and his motive for wanting to permanently silence his wife." Judge Whitmore considered. "I'll allow it, but make it quick, Ms. Chen." Amanda introduced Thomas Reed, estate attorney. He brought the original trust documents, corporate filings, ownership structures, everything sealed for 7 years, everything now public record. Thomas testified about Caroline's father's trust, about the protection mechanisms, about the automatic ownership clauses. Then Amanda dropped it. "Mr. Reed, who owns Tech Vision Corp?" "Caroline Mitchell owns 68%. She's the majority controlling shareholder, has been since inception. Grant Mitchell owns 19%. Various investors own the remaining 13%. The courtroom erupted. Judge banged her gavel, demanded order. Grant stood, face red, voice loud. "That's impossible. I built Tech Vision. I made it worth $600 million. She did nothing." "Mr. Mitchell, sit down," Judge Whitmore ordered. "She wasn't involved. She didn't work. She didn't contribute. That company is mine." "Mr. Mitchell, one more outburst and you'll be held in contempt." But Grant couldn't stop. Years of control, years of believing his own lies, years of underestimating Caroline, all of it exploding at once. "I built that company. Every decision, every contract, every investor meeting, I did that." "Bailiff," Judge Whitmore said calmly. Grant was still yelling as they restrained him. "She's stealing my company. You're letting her steal everything I built." "Mr. Mitchell, you're held in contempt. You'll spend tonight in county jail. We'll resume tomorrow." They removed Grant from the courtroom, still yelling, still raging. The mask completely shattered. Everyone saw it now. This was who he really was. Entitled, furious, controlling, violent. The jury's faces told the story. Shock, disgust, understanding. The man they had seen on the stand, calm, measured, loving, was gone. The real Grant Mitchell was revealed. And it was damning. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Carolyn waited with Vivian and Becca in a private room. Harrison was 5 days old, sleeping in a car seat, unaware that his future was being decided. Whatever happens, Vivian said quietly, you're free of him. Even if the jury acquits, you have the restraining order. The divorce, the ownership documents, he can't hurt you anymore. I know, Carolyn said, and she meant it. She had already won. The trial was just confirmation. At 4:15 p.m., the jury returned. Everyone took their seats. Grant was brought back in. Orange jumpsuit now, handcuffed, hair messy, face exhausted. The contempt citation meant he spent the night in jail, his first taste of consequences. Has the jury reached a verdict? Judge Whitmore asked. The foreperson stood, middle-aged woman, teacher. Caroline had paid attention during jury selection. This woman had kind eyes, fierce eyes. We have, Your Honor. What say you? On the charge of assault with intent to cause great bodily harm, we find the defendant guilty. Carolyn's breath caught. Guilty. They believed her. After everything, they believed her. Grant's face crumpled. Dennis Porter immediately began arguing for appeal. Mistrial, anything. Judge Whitmore silenced him. Sentencing will be in 2 weeks. Mr. Mitchell, you'll remain in custody until then. Bail is revoked given your outburst yesterday and flight risk. More arguing from Dennis Porter. But it was over. Grant was led away. He looked back once at Caroline. She met his gaze. Didn't look away. Didn't flinch. She won. 2 weeks later, they returned for sentencing. Harrison was 19 days old, getting bigger, more alert, more present. Amanda Chen argued for maximum sentence. 7 years. Permanent restraining order. No parental rights without extensive supervised therapeutic intervention. Dennis Porter argued for leniency. First offense. Successful businessman. Pillar of community. Judge Whitmore listened to both sides. Then she spoke directly to Grant. Mr. Mitchell, I've presided over family court for 20 years. I've seen abuse in all its forms. Physical, emotional, financial. You employed every tactic in the abuser's playbook. You isolated your wife, controlled her finances, monitored her movements, destroyed her self-esteem. And when she finally gathered the courage to question you, you attempted to kill her and your unborn child. Your behavior in this courtroom, your complete breakdown when confronted with evidence that you don't own what you thought you owned in, tells me everything I need to know about your character. You care about power, about control, about maintaining an image. You don't care about people, not even your own wife and child. I'm sentencing you to 7 years in state prison. You'll serve at minimum 5 before parole eligibility. You're ordered to have no contact with Caroline Mitchell. Permanent restraining order. You will have no parental rights to Harrison Mitchell. No custody, no visitation. If you wish to pursue a relationship with your son in the future, you must complete extensive therapeutic intervention, anger management, and domestic violence counseling. At that time, Mrs. Mitchell may choose to allow supervised visitation at her discretion. This court hopes you use your time in prison to reflect on the harm you have caused, to understand that wives are not property. That success means nothing without humanity. That power without compassion is just tyranny. Bailiff, remove the defendant. Grant was led away. He didn't look at Caroline, didn't say anything, just walked out, shoulders slumped, defeated. Caroline watched him go, felt nothing, no satisfaction, no vindication, just quiet relief. It was over. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. Amanda had warned Caroline they would be there. The story was too good. Wealthy CEO convicted of domestic violence. Wife secretly owned his company. Dramatic courtroom breakdown. Caroline gave a brief statement. Domestic violence happens in all communities, all income levels, all backgrounds. My story isn't unique. The only unique part is that I had resources to fight back. Most women don't. So I'm using my position to say this clearly. If you're being abused, you deserve help. You deserve safety. You deserve to leave. And I'm committing $10 million to local domestic violence organizations, to shelters, to legal aid, to resources, because every woman should have what I had, a chance to survive. She didn't take questions, just walked away. Becca carried Harrison. Vivian walked beside her. 3 women, 1 baby, moving forward. 3 months later. Carolyn stood in the Tech Vision Corp boardroom, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking San Francisco Bay. Modern furniture, expensive art, everything Grant had chosen. Everything that was actually hers. The board sat around the table. 8 people, some supportive, some skeptical, all waiting to see what she would do. "Good morning," Carolyn said. "For those who don't know me, I'm Caroline Mitchell. I own 68% of this company. I'm your majority shareholder. And as of today, I'm your interim CEO." One board member, Richard Chen, cleared his throat. "Ms. Mitchell, with all respect, perhaps we should bring in an experienced interim CEO, someone with a track record, management experience." "We could." "I have an MBA from Stanford," Caroline interrupted. "I've reviewed 6 years of financials, studied every contract, every investor agreement, every employee file. I know this company better than anyone in this room. And I'm not interim, I'm CEO. Anyone opposed?" Silence. "Good. Now let's discuss our strategy going forward. First, we're implementing new corporate governance policies. Transparency, ethics oversight, regular audits. Second, we're reviewing all executive compensation, making sure no one else is using company funds for personal matters. Third, we're announcing a new diversity initiative. I want 50% of leadership roles filled by women within 2 years. Questions?" Richard spoke again. "Ms. Mitchell, the board is concerned about stability, about public perception, about whether a woman who just divorced her abusive husband can run a company. Let me be clear. My marriage does not define my competence. My trauma does not limit my capability. I survived abuse. That makes me strong, not weak. Now, any other concerns?" No one spoke. "Excellent. We'll meet again next week. Same time." After the meeting, Lauren Shaw appeared. She was CFO now, reporting directly to Caroline. "That went well," Lauren said with a small smile. "They'll come around, or they'll leave. Either way, this company moves forward." Caroline's phone buzzed. Becca. She was at Caroline's mother's house in Connecticut watching Harrison. They were living there temporarily. Caroline needed family, space, time to figure out what came next. She FaceTimed Becca. Harrison appeared on screen. 3 months old, chubby cheeks, alert eyes. He was reaching for everything now, learning constantly. "Hey, baby boy," Caroline said. "Mama had a good day. Told some men exactly where they could put their concerns about female leadership." Harrison made sounds. Baby babble, the best sound in the world. That evening, Caroline flew home to Connecticut, walked into her childhood bedroom. Yellow walls, full bookshelf, photos from high school, college, before Grant. Harrison slept in a bassinet beside the bed. Caroline sat on the floor next to him, watched him breathe, the rise and fall of his tiny chest. Evidence of survival, of hope. She found old business plans from her Stanford days, ideas she'd had, companies she wanted to build, dreams deferred when she chose to support Grant instead. Caroline read them to Harrison. "See this one? It's about democratizing access to capital for female founders. I wanted to create a venture fund specifically for women. Your grandfather would have loved it. We could still do it, you and me, build something together." Harrison's eyes opened, unfocused, but looking toward her voice. "Or this one, educational technology for underserved communities, making sure every kid gets access to good learning tools." I was passionate about that. Caroline kept reading, page after page. Dreams she had forgotten, ambitions she had buried, parts of herself she had left behind. "I thought losing myself was love," she said quietly. "I thought being small meant being supportive. I thought sacrifice meant giving up everything. But that's not love. That's erasure. And you're teaching me the difference. Because loving you doesn't make me smaller. It makes me bigger, stronger, more focused, more purposeful. She picked up Harrison, held him close, breathed in his baby smell, soap and milk and innocence. Your grandfather wanted to protect me, built walls around my money to keep bad people away. Your father wanted to use me, broke down those walls, took what he wanted, left me empty. But you're the reason I rebuilt myself. Not the walls, myself. You're my anchor, my reason, my future. Carolyn walked to the window, looked out at Connecticut winter, snow falling, peaceful, clean, new. Her phone buzzed. Text from Vivian, Tech Vision IPO approved. You're about to be very wealthy. Carolyn laughed, responded, I already am, because wealth wasn't money. It was freedom, safety, choice, the ability to say no, the power to say yes, the courage to leave, the strength to rebuild. Harrison made sounds, demanding attention, always demanding attention in the best way. You're right, Carolyn said. Let's get you fed. While feeding him, Caroline scrolled through her phone. Photos of the past 3 months. Harrison's first smile, first bath, first everything. Then she saw it. A post from a domestic violence advocacy group, a woman's story, 26 years old, husband who seemed perfect until he wasn't, trapped, scared, doesn't know how to leave. Caroline screenshot it, saved it, made a note to reach out, offer support, connection, hope. She couldn't save everyone, couldn't change the past, but she could break the cycle, one conversation at a time, one woman at a time, one moment of offering her number to someone who needed it. 6 months passed. Harrison was 8 months old, crawling, curious, demanding, perfect. Caroline took him to a playground near her mother's house. Spring day, sunshine, other mothers with their children. Everyone going through their own struggles, their own triumphs, their own stories. A young woman sat alone on a bench, pretty, well-dressed, watching her toddler play. And when she turned, Carolyn saw it. Sunglasses inside, makeup carefully applied, but underneath the telltale signs, the concealed black eye, the painful way she moved, the hypervigilance. Carolyn recognized all of it. Every sign, every detail, every survival mechanism. Harrison was on the baby swings, laughing. Caroline watched him while moving closer to the woman. Your son is beautiful, the woman said, voice soft, careful. Thank you. How old is your daughter? 2, Emma. They talked about nothing, weather, playground equipment, nap time routines, surface conversation, safe conversation. Then Caroline decided, extended her hand with a business card. Simple, just name and number, no title, no company, just Caroline Mitchell. If you ever need someone to talk to about anything. The woman looked at the card, her eyes filled with tears. She took it, nodded, didn't say anything. Maybe she would call. Maybe she wouldn't. Maybe she wasn't ready. Maybe she would never be ready. But Caroline offered. Because someone should have offered her, should have seen the signs, should have said clearly and directly, you deserve better. This isn't normal. You can leave. I'll help you. Caroline pushed Harrison on the swing. He laughed. Pure joy. Unfiltered happiness. Your turn to be pushed, Caroline said to him. But it's a good push. A loving push. The kind that sends you higher, not the kind that makes you fall. Later that evening, Caroline gave Harrison his bath. He splashed, made messes, soaked her shirt. She didn't care. Just laughed with him. After bath time, she put him to bed, rocked him, sang softly. His eyes drooped, fighting sleep but losing. Love you, baby boy, Caroline whispered. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for giving me a reason to be strong. Thank you for showing me that I was worth saving. Harrison's breathing evened out. Asleep, safe, protected. Caroline walked back to her room, looked at her wrist. Small tattoo she'd gotten last month. Just his name. Harrison. Simple. Permanent. Her anchor. She sat at the desk, opened her laptop, looked at emails, Tech Vision business, board proposals, investor calls. The company was thriving, growing, becoming something better under her leadership. But more importantly, Caroline was thriving, growing, becoming someone better under her own leadership. She opened a document, started writing. A new business plan, the venture fund for female founders, the dream from Stanford, the ambition she'd buried. Words flowed, ideas crystallized, plans formed. This was who she was. Carolyn Mitchell, Stanford MBA, CEO, mother, survivor, advocate, not Grant's wife, not a victim, not weak, not powerless, just Caroline. Complicated, imperfect, healing, strong. Her phone buzzed. The woman from the playground. Unknown number. This is Emma's mom. From today, I was wondering if we could talk. Not on the phone, maybe coffee. I'm not sure what I'm doing, but I think I need help. Carolyn smiled. Type back immediately. Yes, tomorrow, 10 a.m. I'll send you a location. You're already doing the hard part. You're reaching out. That's brave. See you tomorrow. She put down the phone, looked out the window. Connecticut spring. Everything blooming, everything new, everything possible. Carolyn thought about Grant. Somewhere in prison, serving time, learning hopefully that actions have consequences, that abuse has costs, that power without humanity is worthless. She didn't wish him harm, didn't wish him suffering, just wished him understanding. Growth, change. But mostly she didn't think about him at all, because her life now had nothing to do with him. Her success wasn't despite him. It was beyond him. Her healing wasn't about forgiving him. It was about freeing herself. Caroline returned to her business plan, kept writing, planning, dreaming. Outside, spring turned to summer. Summer would turn to fall. Seasons would change. Time would pass. Harrison would grow, and Caroline would be there, present, engaged, powerful. Not because she owned a company, not because she survived abuse, not because she won in court, but because she chose herself, finally, completely, without apology. She thought about what she would tell Harrison someday, when he was old enough to understand, old enough to ask about his father, old enough to process difficult truths. She would tell him, love should never hurt, support should never control, partnership should never erase, and strength isn't about enduring pain. It's about knowing when to leave. She would tell him, your mother was lost, then she was found, not by someone else, by herself, by choice, by courage. She would tell him, you saved me, but more importantly, I saved myself. And that's the lesson I want you to learn. Save yourself first, then you can help save others. Carolyn closed the laptop, checked on Harrison one more time. Still sleeping, still peaceful, still perfect. She lay in bed. For the first time in years, she fell asleep without fear, without checking her phone, without listening for footsteps, without preparing for conflict. Just sleep, deep, genuine, earned, the kind of sleep that comes after you've fallen and chosen to rise. The kind of peace that comes after you've been broken and chosen to heal. The kind of strength that comes after you've been powerless and chosen to reclaim power. Carolyn Mitchell, 32 years old, mother, CEO, survivor, advocate, future. Not perfect, not undamaged, not without scars, but free. Finally, completely powerfully free. Carolyn's story reminds us that strength isn't about never falling. It's about choosing to rise. It's about recognizing your own power, even when the world tells you you are powerless. If this story moved you, hit that like button. It helps other women who need to hear this find it. Drop a comment telling me what moment hit you hardest. Was it the recordings, the ownership revelation, the courtroom breakdown? I read every single comment, and your stories matter. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that they're stronger than they know, that leaving is possible, that justice exists, and if you're not subscribed yet, click that button. Because every week I bring you stories like this. Stories about people who survived impossible situations and came out transformed. Real stories, powerful stories, stories that prove we're all capable of more than we think. Caroline started at the bottom of a staircase and ended up CEO of a $600 million company. Not because of revenge, not because of luck, but because she chose herself. What will you choose today? I'll see you in the next story. Until then, remember, you're stronger than you know, you're worth more than you have been told, and your power is real, even when it's hidden. Take care of yourselves. And thank you for listening. Retry.